folks, and welcome to the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra, and today I have a great guest. This is Rubi Tapia, and Ruby, hi! Good to have you,
Hello.
Ruby.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's great to have you. So, Ruby is a biomedical engineer in the biomedical engineering program at Northwestern. Super awesome. And she's also doing a podcast with a friend of hers named Cynthia. So their podcast is called Academic Comadres. So make sure that you look out for that. I'll be sure to tag the show, on social media and things. Cynthia goes by Academic Chola. So they have lots to share in terms of being Latina, being in academia, and all the ups and downs that we face.
Yeah.
So
Lots of ups and downs for
lots
sure.
of ups and downs. It is a wild ride for sure.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, knowing what I know now, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. I'm coming up on, God, it's wild. Next year will be 10 years since I graduated the doctoral program.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's been a minute. But it's good. It's exciting. All right. So welcome, Ruby. And as always, I'll start us off with talking about culture. So as we know, Latinas come in all different varieties. We have different backgrounds, different experiences. Some of us grow up in cities, some grow up in more countryside, some grow up in the US, some in Latin America. So I would love to hear from you as far as sharing like your experience.
Yeah, this is actually a good first question because with the current political climate that's happening, like I've been thinking a lot about my own identity myself lately.
Yeah.
Just because, technically I'm a first generation immigrant. Like I came here at the age of 2. So I'm part of the category of babies that grew up here, but
Sure.
we identify as Mexicanos, right? Like my passport is Mexican.
Yeah.
And so I was undocumented up until the age of 16. And so, I was fortunate enough to get a green card because of my mom's, hard work and whatnot. And so that was something that really shaped my experience in high school.
Yeah.
Because, being awarded a green card, I said, okay, now I can really go full throttle and, the sky's the limit for me.
Pursue what you want to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I
Wow.
have a social security
Wow.
card.
Yeah.
And so I think that really influenced the path I took and why I ended up in academia. And so now that I'm a naturalized citizen since November, just before the change
Oh
of
my God.
administration,
Wow. Unbelievable.
everything happened, just in the nick of time. And so now that I'm a naturalized citizen, now I'm in that place where I'm like, okay, like how do I identify myself?
Yeah.
Like I'm a U.S. citizen on paper, but I have both passports. I have both my Mexican passport and my U.S. passport.
Good for you.
And so yeah, now it's the time of reflection now for me, where I'm like, okay, like how do I introduce myself? Like Mexicana or American or, and I've learned with time that depending on the people that I interact with, it'll dictate like what I identify as. Yeah. So for example, I'll give you an example. I did a study abroad opportunity during my undergrad, and I went to Spain, where everybody knows.
Me too. Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into that. Yeah. Yeah.
Good conversations. And so, everybody knows like there are tension, like political tensions between like
there's a
Mexicanos
history. Yeah.
and Spaniards. And so when I would interact with the Spanish students, like yo me identificaba como mexicana, because I don't know, I felt like I was less, what's the word? I don't want to say bullied, but like observed in a certain lens. Because then if I was
as the American study abroad student, yep, exactly.
So then if I say that I'm the American study abroad student, then they would obviously have some certain perception of me,
right?
That I didn't want to be perceived in that way. Because why? Majority of the study abroad students that I got to interact with from the U.S. tended to be white American girls. And so that's
Anglo. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But then, I'm trying to think of a scenario where I would identify as American. I don't think I have one specifically, but that's one example of like when I would choose to pick
Yeah.
Mexican over American to my favor. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's so amazing. I'm so glad that you shared that because I actually had almost an identical experience. So I studied abroad to a couple different places, but I went back to Spain 3 different times and I kept increasing the length of time. I went for a summer, I went for a semester, and then I went for 2.5 years. So I got to really, I feel like I really got to know the country pretty well.
yeah.
And the friends that I made, the Spaniards, right, who were from Madrid, from the Canary Islands, etc., my
Yeah.
roommates, things like that, they would say often, they're like, we don't see you as American, quote unquote. We don't see you like
Yeah.
from the
Right.
USA, right? We
Uh-huh.
don't see you from the USA at all. If anything, we see you as Latin American, right? Because my family is Ecuadorian Guatemalan. They're
Hmm.
like your way of being, the way you speak, the way you behave, like we don't perceive you as an American study abroad student.
Right.
So that
Right.
was very interesting. And that tripped me out for a long time. I was like, wow, like that's so bizarre, right? And so I'm kind of comforted to hear that another person with a similar identity had a
Yeah.
similar experience there. And also, I have to say, no place is perfect, right? However, it was so eye-opening to me because everyone, how should I say? It was almost like I was being warned about going to Spain, like, oh, they're going to talk bad about your Spanish. That's a
Hmm.
colonizer. You're going to
Yeah.
hate it. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. Nothing was further from the truth. Truly, I had a beautiful experience. I met wonderful people. By and large, I would say 99% of the time, everyone was really kind and really
Yeah.
cool with me.
Hmm.
I really didn't have any complaints. So that alone, in other words, like, don't always believe what you hear, right?
Oh
And I
yeah.
think it's so important. And it also
Hmm.
speaks to the importance of travel. I think that's where a lot of the, looping it back to what's happening today, I think so much of the fear based reactions is because people just don't know. They've never left the comfort of their small town or their state or anything. They've never seen anybody who doesn't look like them, or
Right.
doesn't speak what they speak. So, yeah, I really, man, if everyone could take just a couple trips outside of their comfort zone, I think the world would be a lot more
No,
peaceful.
100%. No, I
Yeah.
agree. And I always advocate. So I used to work as a camp college counselor over the summers during my
Oh, cool.
undergrad.
Yeah.
And this was with the youth program that's like very close to my heart. It's called
Mhm.
C5 Los Angeles. And,
Oh, cool.
I was a student of theirs from eighth grade up until the end of my high school
Oh,
career.
nice.
Um, and so I would go back in the summers to then mentor other high school students. And I would always press him, like, if you have the opportunity and the financial means, like, definitely take advantage of study abroad opportunities.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I mean, cultural awareness, like, definitely increases when you get out there and interact
Oh,
with
yeah.
people from all different walks of life.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like, maybe I shouldn't generalize so much, certain
Yeah.
groups.
It's true,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so I think similar to you though, I also felt like especially the youth, like the younger generations in Madrid, because I was living in Madrid,
Mhm.
especially them, I felt like they were very much like younger America, and that they're more open minded, more
Mhm.
liberal.
Yeah.
Um, but the older generations, because I was in a homestay with an older family, so
Yeah.
it kind of reminded them, like their interactions reminded me of like my interactions with my mom, like a little bit more
Oh, old school.
traditional,
Yeah, yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah.
closed minded.
Traditional. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. I think sometimes change can be hard for people. It's not always easy, and that too, like, it doesn't even matter in a way. It doesn't really matter what country we're talking about. It's more so, I think, the generation, the
Yeah.
exposure. Now we have all kinds of access: social media, TV, radio. You can learn about things, you can see other people, you can communicate with other people from around the world. And those generations, like our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, they didn't really have that. So I think
Mhm.
the world, in a way, like the world was smaller to an
No,
extent.
yeah. And
Yeah.
funny enough, I was just talking to my mom about this yesterday.
Hmm.
Because I think I mentioned to you like topic about mental health, and I was telling
Yeah.
her that like she shouldn't guilt herself either for a lot
Mhm.
of the outcomes that came about
Yeah.
like in our families, because she just didn't know. She just didn't have
Yeah.
the awareness about it.
Yeah.
And I think hearing
it's
that, it like alleviated some of the guilt and shame that she was holding on. I was just like,
mm-hmm.
it's nobody's fault.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I agree that I think for a lot of our families, the focus was survival. Like
Mhm.
literally. Like it was
Yeah.
literally like food on the table, roof over the head, school, clothes, and we can get that done, we're good, right? Like just getting that accomplished was a huge feat. Yeah, it's true, and so I think it is a blessing in a lot of ways that now like our generations can do more self-care and more therapy, like taking time for therapy, doing
Mhm.
that kind of thing. It means a lot, it means a lot, and there is healing in that for sure. But it's true, I think for the other generations, basically they did the best they could, by
Yeah.
and large, like they were just doing the best they could. So, you know, but
Yeah, and
yeah.
I think recognizing that, it helped me to let go of like resentment that I had, as a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah. Because
It's
I'll be
hard.
honest, like I definitely, and
Yeah.
we're talking about spirituality too. Like I think
Mm,
before, like I found myself in a place where I would think like, oh, like there's no God, like God doesn't care about me or my
mm,
family or like the people in my
yeah.
neighborhood. And that like you hold on to a lot of like anger
Yeah.
and resentment, but then you realize that it's more damaging than it is good.
Right, right.
And so
It's
that's
so
where like
true.
healing comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can kind of get into the question about like religion and spirituality. Yeah, I think it is challenging, and I totally understand, to look around the world, to look at the state of the world, it is really tough to
Yeah.
see like, okay, God, what's up, right? Like, are we gonna do something here? Like, why is everything like falling apart?
No,
Not
for sure.
only on a personal level, but on a more global societal level. These are rough
Hmm.
times. Like
Oh
we're
yeah.
recording on 4th of July, funny enough, and for many of us, there's not a whole lot to celebrate right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty wild. But I would love to hear from you in terms of was let's see, like was religion or spirituality kind of part of your, you know, growing up, like in your
Hmm.
home, or I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. I have an interesting experience because
Mhm.
my mom, she was never a church goer,
Okay.
but she believed in God. Like
Yes.
she like turns to God whenever she's, having trouble
Similar
and
to
things
my
like that.
mom. She's not one to
Yeah.
go every Sunday to church, but that lady prays. She prays every morning. She has her santos. She has her candles going. Yeah.
Yeah. And so growing up, my mom, she baptized us. She
Mhm.
took me to first communion school,
Mhm.
and then I did my confirmation in high school. And you know, when I did my confirmation, like I did some extra work too, where I like went and volunteered at the Catholic school, and I would teach like the kids their prayers and
Oh, cool. Mhm.
things like that. And so that's what I was doing in high school. But then somewhere along the way, where I was telling you that I just had a lot of like pent up anger because
Mm.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm reciting all these like prayers and scripture and like all this stuff, but I just felt empty. I felt like
Mm.
I was reciting things without really understanding
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
believing in it, and
Right.
now looking back, I realized like it was really just a lack of faith is what was
Mm.
happening. And so
Ooh.
I ended up
Yeah.
leaving, not because somebody did something or anything, or like I
Yeah.
like
Some
somebody did me
major
wrong in the
scandalous thing. Right.
church.
Right. Right.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
wasn't because of that. I just left because I felt like I was walking a path that I wasn't in favor of at the
Mm.
time. It was after a church session, and I went to my mom and I asked her, why did you make me do all this stuff? Baptism, first communion,
Uh-huh.
confirmation, and everything. Like, what was the purpose of that?
Mm.
And it was sort of in a spiteful way. Like it was with a very angered voice, and I just told her like I don't understand, and like it's not pérdida de tiempo is what I said.
Wow. Yeah.
And so and then she told me like, well, Ruby, like te quise dar opción, like you're supposed to decide that for yourself, like
Mm.
I really wanted to just give you the option. And when she told me
Yeah.
that, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, she's so right. Like I
Yeah.
think I would have much rather
Yeah.
preferred to have the option on the table than not the option at all. And
Yeah.
so
Mm.
I think after that, like that's really where I started understanding my mom a little bit more, where
Mm.
her intentions really were to give us the maximum amount of opportunities, and then have us, decide for ourselves like what it is that
Make
we want to
decisions. Yeah.
adopt and like carry with
Yeah.
us. And so I think that's a very noble thing.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful for it. And so I think now I find myself in a place where I really want to find my own spirituality and my own connection with God, and whether that be with a church or no church,
Hmm.
I think I do believe that there is a God. Just because, coming from science, like science cannot explain everything. Like I'm a
Right.
firm believer,
Right.
like God is really there to fill in the gaps where the gaps have
Yeah.
to be filled. And so
Yeah.
I think also too, like learning to see the good in life is
Hmm.
also like a practice that takes
Yes.
some time,
Yes.
because at the time, like my previous self, like I was seeing things from a very like negative lens where
Mm.
everything was like grays and blacks and there wasn't
Hmm.
anything good. but
Hmm. Hmm.
but then once you start to like look back on your life, I'm like, well, like I was struggling back then, but like I did have the minimums, like you said, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
food,
The basics. Yeah.
clothing,
Yeah.
like a roof
That's
on
huge.
over me.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And so those are all good things. Of course there were stressors and whatnot, but I think I just at the time I didn't know how to appreciate the little things that I did have
Yeah.
you know
There's so many lessons, right? There's so many lessons that we have to go through. I really, more and more as I'm Catholic, I still believe in the church and things like that. And also, getting more into like this more spiritual side, like tarot and astrology and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like, wow, like this really is earth school. Like this we really are this life, right? This life is really about lessons. Lessons about ourselves, lessons about community, lessons about love, lessons about a lot of things. And it's true. I really firmly believe this. There are things that happen that we may never understand, right?
Yeah.
Either again in our personal lives or globally, they just don't make sense on paper, right?
Hmm.
But again, I think that's kind of the point of an ultimate creator or universe, however someone wants to envision that only they know, like only they will fully know. That's their
Hmm.
role is to fully know everything, right? And it gets hard because I mean, definitely things have happened in my life that I don't fully understand. One of the things that I don't mind sharing here is like one of my best friends, she passed away in her early mid 30s.
Hmm.
Of She had Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful person, beautiful inside and out. She met a wonderful man, super cool guy. They had a little boy, right? Like dream, 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 fairy tale, beautiful. She was such a good heart person. And that still is really hard for me. I'm like, because my reaction is she was too young. Like she was too young. Like why didn't she get to watch her son grow up? Why didn't she get to get old with her husband? Why didn't she, right? Like all of these
Yeah.
things, and it's really hard. I think about her all the time. But in a way, I'm like, man, I also know that she's watching over me. Again, this is kind of getting more into like the angelic and believing that there's more to this life than meets the eye, right? But I do think that she's one of my guardian angels for sure.
That's
Um,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, and but but would I love to have her here, and would I love to go to coffee with her? Yes, right, selfishly, right? Selfishly,
Yeah.
of course, I would love to be able to go to dinner with her and hug her and see her, But it's tough, and so yeah, I do think it's a journey. It takes time, and also to your point that you mentioned earlier that I think it's worth repeating. Having faith does not mean that everything goes perfect. Having
Hmm.
faith does not mean that the road is smooth without any bumps. That's not what faith is. Having faith is being able to navigate the bumps and being able to navigate the highs and lows of life. What is
Yeah.
that Cardi B song? We fall down 9, get up 10. Like that's it. Like it's really that's what life is. Is being the resilience, is the resilience that for me, that's what faith is the resilience, the bounce back from all all the things that have
Yeah.
happened. And I do want to touch upon mental health as well.
I was just gonna, yeah.
You want, yeah,
There's
yeah, let's do it, let's do
parallels.
it. Yeah, perfect. We're on the same page. Yeah, just kind of sit like moving into that conversation. I know that I know God protected me when I had my basically my manic episode, like bipolar breakdown. That was in
Yeah.
summer of 2020. I that for me, if I ever had any if I ever had any doubt about like the protection of God or God's love or any those moments, I know that I know that I know God watched me. Like there's no way. There's no way. I shared this on I shared the story more fully like in a episode for World Mental Health Day or something, but I was wandering around San Francisco, no phone, no wallet, no bag, no
Mhm.
identification whatsoever for several days. Like, and and the fact that like by the grace of God, nothing like happened to me. I didn't get like kidnapped. I didn't get, you know,
Yeah.
unalived or whatever. Right? That's insane. You know what I mean? Like that's insane. Um,
Somebody was definitely protecting you for
yeah,
sure.
like downtown San Francisco, like I was in gym clothes. I was walking around downtown San Francisco in gym clothes for I think it was like at least 3 or 4 days. My mom thinks it was like almost like closer to a week. Anyway, that's insane. But yeah, so I share that to kind of connect the two of like God's love and protection. And again, I'm grateful that I was able to kind of I also put in my part to focus on like therapy. I also had to put in my part, doing
Yeah.
therapy. I take medication, like all of that stuff, which
Hmm.
I share this again in hopes that the people listening will know that they're not alone, because I know that sometimes people feel ashamed or uncomfortable, or they have
Yeah.
relatives or friends that are going through it and they're, trying to figure things out. And it's like, it's, it can be okay, right? Like in other words,
Yeah.
like putting in the effort and the work and stuff, like a person can really actually thrive in the end. Like as crazy as it is to say today, I almost don't want to say it out loud, but in a way I'm kind of grateful that all that happened, because it
Yeah.
like totally revolutionized the way that I see life. Yeah.
Man, this is okay. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot here that makes me excited to talk about because
Yay. Yeah.
um I think another reason why I do believe there is a God is because of instances like this,
Yeah.
where I have all these thoughts in my head, and then somebody along the way comes and like makes sense of these thoughts for me. So I got diagnosed with a mood disorder myself,
Mm,
with type
mm,
2 bipolar mood disorder. And
wow.
so then I had to go and learn, because and I wasn't planning on talking about any of this because, like you said, because of the shame and the
Yeah, it's
guilt
still
and like
stigma.
all these
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
But I think after, after I went into a partial hospitalization program, and so for
Yeah.
those of you listening, like a partial hospitalization program is essentially a clinical program where you go in to a hospital and you do group therapy from
Mhm,
Monday through Friday, 9
mhm,
to 2 p.m. It could
mhm,
be longer depending on the program, but
yeah,
that's kind of how it's structured. And usually it takes around 6 weeks. And so I did one myself recently this past March. And so I took a medical leave of absence. And of course, like I felt bad because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to put a pause from school. And like I'm new here and like I'm on my own in
mhm,
Chicago and like all these different
yeah,
things. But I think going back to your point about resilience, like
yeah.
even things like that, like those do showcase like so much resilience
Oh,
in me.
yeah.
And at the time I thought that it
Cool.
was, oh, it's weak and like all these different things that
No.
I feel like culturally get instilled.
Right.
Um, but like you said, like once you know what the root cause is, therapy, medication,
Yeah.
more education.
Yeah.
Now I look back to my family and I'm like, how can I help them who are also
Mhm.
struggling? So then it
Totally.
also fills my cup because I'm like, I know I can really like provide information that they're lacking, on their end. And so thank you for sharing that. Like that
Yeah.
actually, because then
You're
I got
welcome.
informed on like what bipolar mood even is. People have these
Yeah.
like especially in the media and in movies, it gets portrayed in certain ways where I'm
Oh,
like,
it's terrible. Yeah.
and it's a spectrum of things. And
Mhm.
so, like, for me, for example, like, I don't have manic episodes, but I have long periods of depression episodes.
Mm, mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it wasn't until we tried different medications that they realized,
Yes.
they're like, oh, you're not supposed to be taking like these class of medications because
Yeah.
your neurochemistry is different. And I was like, oh,
Totally. Yeah, you know what? And that's the other part too, is like to not give up on oneself, right?
yeah,
Sometimes it is trial and error in terms of medication, things like that. It's true. Like one of the first medications I was put on, I felt good. I was like chugging along. I'm like, yeah, all right, like I'm feeling better, da 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 da.
yeah,
But then like several months in, I guess maybe the accumulation of the medication, I was not feeling good, right? My mom
mm,
noticed like a change in me. She's like, you're something is off. Like something is going on. And so we're like, well, back to square one. And so I ended up getting hospitalized to adjust medication because they basically have to
yeah,
observe you. They
they
can't just
do.
like, take you off of everything and just like send you home.
Yeah.
And so I had to get an adjustment, and thankfully like that worked like a charm
Hmm.
because yeah, like I don't even want to say like I'm back to my old self again, because I do think that, oh man, it's almost like the breakdown forced me to let go of a lot of things, right? Rigidity,
Yeah.
right? Things that I was like so adamant about, so rigid about, so like um I don't even know, like so stuck and hardcore about certain things in my
Like
life.
fixated on certain things.
Yeah, yes, yes. And so that whole experience and process, I was like, oh wow, like I can't. You know what I mean? Like I can't. I have to manage my stress levels now. I have to get enough sleep, right? These other things are really important. And really one of the most beautiful things about it was to see how my friends and family, that they still, and this might sound a little cheesy, I was like, wow, like they still love me. Because at some point you kind of feel like, damn man, like I'm so messed up, like I'm so broken, like I'm a hot
Yeah.
mess, like this is crazy. And they're like, no, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And so that was actually a beautiful part of the experience, because again, I think many of us are assuming, right? It's like we assume that our family will be there for us, that our friends will be there for us, right? But it's
Mhm.
not always like tested. In this case,
Yeah.
it was really tested. And so that meant a lot to me. It still means a lot to me that they never made me feel, they never made me feel bad. They
Yeah.
just wanted to see me feel good. That was their concern, is like, we want you to feel better. We want you to, be yourself again, right?
Yeah.
Because it got a little it got a little scary. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my gosh.
No, but that's good. That's good. And I think all of these stories, especially the mental health related ones,
Mhm.
it does take patience and resilience though,
It
for sure.
does.
Because for
It
me,
does.
with all of these like medications, like I tried Lexapro, Prozac. What
Mhm.
was another one that I tried? They even put me on Adderall because they
Oh.
thought it was ADHD, and
Oh
there
wow.
my therapist was saying like maybe there's like ADHD tendencies somewhere embedded in there,
Mm.
could be, but put me on Adderall, and I was like, none of these helped. They made it worse.
Oh no.
And so,
Yeah.
but I stuck it out because like I knew that's just unfortunately how psychiatric medicine is.
Yeah.
Like it is really just trial and error. Like
Yeah. It is.
it,
It is.
there is no specific. I mean, sure you can have lithium blood tests and like all those things,
Right.
but there is no specific thing that can no specific test that can tell you like you this is the exact medication you need for X, Y,
Right.
and Z reason.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, it's like it is about having some patience. As Yeah, it's so true. There are some common medications, of course, that people tend to use for certain diagnoses, etc. But again, each human being is so different. Our body chemistry, all of that, our levels, like you mentioned, like getting your lithium checked. I have to go do blood work and get that checked to make sure it's like,
Yeah,
on track,
me
whatever.
too.
Things like that that people don't always, for the listener, you may not know that, but yes, that's, those are some of the things that happen behind the scenes. Yeah, like it's true. Like having the patience, and again, to not give up on yourself, to not give up on, getting, and also I feel like I have to mention this too. If a person has been working with a doctor and you feel like they're not listening to you, they're
Leave.
dismissing you, they're gaslighting you, whatever combination of that, please find a different provider, right? Please find a different provider. Please find a different therapist, psychiatrist, whatever it is. The point being, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on
Yeah.
yourself. I know it can be a pain. I know it can be a pain calling around and making appointments and doing all that. But if you know you need the help and support, don't give up.
No, yeah, no, 100% agree. I've been fortunate in that the therapists that I have sought out, like, I read their, like, make sure you guys read the bios because it
Yes.
says a lot about them.
Yes, it
So, and
does.
I'm
Yes,
I'm
it
always
does.
very particular about the type of therapist I interact with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's who you're gonna be sharing your most vulnerable thoughts with.
Yeah.
So I always like to try to imagine, like, okay, is this like a friend that I feel like I can go to? That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how
Yeah.
I approached it, and it's worked out for me. With psychiatrists, like, I had I like switched like 3 different times, and then I went back to the original one, and it was
Mm.
just so that
Yeah.
one I feel like it took some time, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I think going back to family, like I think that's great that you were able to be more connected with your family, because I also felt the same way myself.
Mm.
Like, I didn't tell them that I was in the clinical program until I was close to done,
Oh,
just
wow.
because like I had this fear, like, oh, they're gonna disown me, or they're gonna
Oh.
say something. But
Yeah.
then once I shared it, my mom was actually like, pues mija, no más me importa de que te sientes bien. And I was like, oh my gosh, the waterworks came out.
Oh, yeah.
Because yeah, and so I think that was also healing for myself and them
Mm-hmm.
too, like my
Oh, yeah.
mom. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
it's
Yeah,
yeah.
those are pretty awesome moments when we share something with our family or friends, like our loved ones, broadly, speaking,
Hmm.
and we think they're going to react one way, but they're actually super understanding. Like,
Yeah.
I am oh my God. That's like one of my favorite things in the world. Like, I'm so grateful when that happens. Like, in other words, like, we work ourselves up, right? We're all stressed out. We work ourselves out. Oh my God, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be like a mess. We're going to like argue, da 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 da. And it's like, boop, nope. it's easy peasy, right? It was like not as big and bad as we think it's going to be. It's actually very simple, and they're very kind, and it's cool. I think it's so awesome. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm
and
so happy. I'm so happy for you that that your mom was very understanding. It sounds like your family was very understanding.
yeah, and so yeah, I think it's made us closer in that she comes to
Cool.
me now to talk about like mental health related stuff. She was like,
Oh, that's cool.
Ruby, like, and then I was telling her, um, it's because one of my sisters, she is struggling
Mm,
um with substance use and things like that. And
mm.
so, I was telling my mom that, um, I mean, I no la quise regañar, but I kind of told her, I'm like, hey, like, the way you're approaching it is just making her seep more and more into guilt, like,
Oh,
that's not the way. And
yeah.
she was like, pues mija, es que yo no sé cómo. And I was like, okay, let's get this information for you,
Mm,
So,
yeah.
like, because online, if you like find mental health resources, you can always find them in Spanish. So I was like, I can
That's
definitely like help
true.
you with that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then,
Mhm.
unfortunately, some of my family doesn't have mental health insurance for
Oh,
whatever reason.
yeah.
And so we're getting that situated. Like, don't
Oh
even get
my
me
gosh.
started on
I
insurance.
can't, no, no. I mean, I'm with you. I actually had to change my health insurance recently, so this is very much like a hot button topic for me right now.
Yeah.
The way the health insurance done in the US is a disaster. The
Yeah.
prices are outrageous. And as we know, medical debt is really how some people end up bankrupt, losing everything, just like overwhelmed with hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical debt because they need procedures, they need surgery, things like that, and they can never pay it back, or they have a really hard
Hmm.
time managing that. And then, yeah, like the lack of mental health services, or the fact that you have to like really fight for mental health services. We don't have a lot of accessible programs. Yeah, it's oh my gosh, it's a shame. It's a shame that our
It
country does
is.
not do more for people or does not have a better system in place.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
told her, I was like, I think that's one of the biggest ironies of life is that the people at the bottom are the ones that are really in need of like mental health resources,
Yes. Yes.
but it's not
They can't
available.
get it. Exactly. Right. The people, um, yeah, even when when I was like really struggling, the only option my parents had, my mom, she had to call 911. You know what I mean? Like that was
Yeah.
I was like, it was a bad situation because there's no other way to call. Like there's really no other number to
Yeah.
call. I think now there might be some other like basically like
Hotline.
mental health crisis hotlines, but at the moment,
Yeah.
at the moment that's all she could think of really also is just like we need help, right? And so again, like it's very sad that it's very sad that that's a case. It's not more accessible. Yeah, I really I'm always talking about mental health these days, like yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, and so but I think it's like you said, it's a journey and you learn lessons along the way.
Hmm.
So like, reflecting back on my own mental health experiences, I'm like, oh, like I have had quite a few periods of my life where
Hmm.
um there were depressive waves and I dismissed it because I thought
Hmm.
like, oh no, like everybody struggles, like it's
Yeah.
fine. Which technically everybody does struggle, but I think if you're struggling in cycles where it's like one time after another, then
Hmm.
that kind of hints at like, okay,
Yeah.
something's not right.
I was um I was kind of shocked, but not really shocked. I remember when the psychiatrist, when I was first diagnosed, they were telling me like, yeah, bipolar runs in academia. Like, there's a lot of academics who have bipolar. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, like the stress, the high highs, the low lows, like the cycles of the academic, year. It works really well. I was like, no, what are you talking about? So I was cracking up when they told me that. I was like, oh gosh. And then apparently, like hyper-religiosity is also connected. My PhD is in religion, so
Yeah.
it all makes sense. It all makes sense. But yeah, no, it's definitely been a trip for real.
Yeah.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
but it's like I'm forever grateful for those experiences. Like, let's take my study abroad experience. So
Yeah.
when I came back, the first thing that my friend said, like, oh my gosh, Ruby, you like lost so much weight, like all that exercise did you well.
Yes.
But the reason why I lost so
Oh,
much weight is because I wasn't eating.
oh,
I
you weren't
wasn't
eating.
Yeah, I wasn't
Oh.
eating. I wasn't
Mm,
taking care of myself. Like there were all symptoms of
yeah.
um like functioning depression,
Yeah.
because I was still presenting myself to
Yeah.
like the public world. But
Wow.
I even tracked down a photo of my desk and it was like a cluster mess of so much everything, and I was just like, I wasn't cleaning up after myself,
Oh,
not
no.
taking care of myself, and I was like seeping more and more into
Mm.
just like negative trains of thought, and
Oh
like
no.
I took
Yeah.
that with me, and I was just like, and so I got, look past that, and then I got into therapy a year after, and then I reflect on that time, and I was like, no, that was high functioning depression there,
Mm.
like,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
so, but you live and learn, is what I say.
We do. It's true. We live and learn. And I'm glad you mentioned that too. Things like depression, anxiety, ADHD, etc., it can present differently in different people.
Yep.
Right. So it doesn't, don't, in other words, like don't assume that it's going to look only one way. Right. I think
Hmm.
that that's also an issue, because people, I have friends who are like, oh my God, I didn't get diagnosed with XYZ until I was like 35 years old, 40 years old. Yeah. Because we're very like high functioning, very like able to
Yeah.
kind of navigate, or even high functioning autism, anything, all kinds of things. Right.
Hmm.
It's like, whoa, I never knew. It's like, yeah, because we assume all of this looks one way, right? Like the DSM, what is it? The DSM-5, I think it is called,
Yeah.
the manual for for
Yeah. Yeah.
psychologists. It's helpful, but not everyone. Again, like it doesn't present the same way for everybody. So that's also
It
something to
doesn't.
bear in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, like I dismissed the diagnosis. I was like, "There's no way," like because both of them got flagged in my like clinical evaluation. So like the
Mm-hmm.
ADHD and a bipolar spectrum is what
Mm-hmm.
they said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so but what I didn't pay attention was that the clinical values were a lot higher for a mood disorder than it was for ADHD. And so all I
Oh,
heard was ADHD and ran with it. And then
oh, I
that
see.
kind
I
of
see.
clouded my judgment. And
Yeah,
so I was like,
you know, And it's okay. I'm trying to think of how to say this. It's okay to maybe not be ready. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to maybe not be ready to like dive in and like deal with a particular thing. You know, sometimes it takes time. In other words, sometimes it just takes time to like figure things out, and we figure things out in our own timing, right?
Oh yeah.
Cool. Oh, this
Mhm.
is so good, Ruby. So the last segment, we'll call it, of the podcast is about the inner Nina. I know for so many of us, we've had to reparent ourselves or do a lot of inner child healing, things like that. So I always invite my guests to share either, what advice. Oh, it's a picture of you.
It's
So
because I
cute.
have my desk here, and I
Oh,
have a lot to share about this. So go
I
ahead
love
and
it. So
finish.
I'm super
Sorry.
excited. Yes, I would love to hear from you in terms of like what you tell your inner Nina, and also just kind of like what advice you have for young Latinas today.
Yeah, and so okay, the reason why I now have a kid photo of
So
myself.
cute.
Antes no tenía, but I made sure to bring one over from California. Is because I had a mentor who he told me, Ruby, when you start your PhD program, you're obviously going to hit a lot of bumps in the road, and a lot of self doubt's gonna creep
Mm-hmm.
in, and
Right.
all these different things. And he took a child photo from his wallet out, and he said, I
Oh.
always make sure to carry like a child photo of myself, so I
Oh.
can remember like who I was back then, and and how that identity led me here,
Mm-hmm.
as a kid. And so for me, when I look at this photo, I'm like, it's just it's. I always think back to when I was in fifth grade and I was running around with all these different friends of mine and just like
So
having a good
cute.
time.
So cute.
And so now, like, in therapy, like, I've learned to really look at my kid self as a reminder of like, um as a reminder to have self compassion for myself, because I tend
Mm.
to be really hard on myself. But then I
Same.
think back and I'm like, okay, would I
Same.
tell my kid self, like, you're stupid, you're not worth it, you're not smart enough?
Mm.
Like, I don't think anybody would like to say that to a kid. So don't
Right.
say that to yourself. But by picturing your kid self, like, it makes it um more of like an honest experience for yourself.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's, you know, a little you is so proud of you, and it's so
Yeah.
important to remember that. And absolutely, like the way that we talk to ourselves is critical. The self-talk is so important. I mean, like it's so important to spend time just pouring love on oneself, motivating oneself,
Yeah.
building confidence, self-confidence. That is such a key. I mean, more and more I'm like, wow, that really is a foundation.
No, it really is.
So like for example, I think about like relationships. Alas, many of us in our younger years, especially, will put up with really terrible and ridiculous boyfriends, girlfriends, etc. Right? Because we, in a way, it's like because we don't know better, because we don't see that we deserve better. Right? It hasn't clicked.
Right.
It hasn't clicked
Right.
yet, right? And so it's like, oh hell no! But by the time we get older, it's like, oh no, like if they can't meet me where I'm at, if they don't love and support me, if they don't bring good into my life, what's the
Yeah.
point? Like what's the point if they're bringing nothing but negativity, drama, cruelty, etc.? Ew, no, like it's. So I think these are, again, like these are lessons. I think these are life lessons for sure. The inner Nina, the inner child, definitely important. I love that you have a picture of yourself on your desk.
Yeah. And
How old are
so
you in this picture?
I was in either fourth or fifth grade, like around that
Oh,
age.
super cute.
Yeah. But I think it's a good exercise for people to try.
Yeah,
Like, when you
for
find
sure.
yourself in a cycle of just negative thoughts, where you're attacking yourself,
Hmm.
like, think about like you telling that to your kid self, you
Exactly.
know? It
Exactly.
gives you a better sense of like, yeah, I don't think I would want to do such a thing to a child because
Hmm.
you're a child, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I am pretty hard on myself. And so that's where I'm like learning to try to bring more like self-compassion in.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's a helpful exercise though. It's helped me for sure. So I hope somebody watching or
Yeah.
listening
That's
might
beautiful.
give it a
It's
try.
really great. And I want to share also. So YouTube is fantastic. Again, everything is what you make it to be, right? So YouTube can be a place to mess around and kill time or whatever, or it can be a very valuable resource. I use YouTube for meditations, Reiki healing. I mean, there's a million and one meditation, there's subliminals, there's a lot of really helpful tools on YouTube because there's a million creators out there. And so, for example, there is like inner child healing, meditations or visualizations or things like that, or activities, making a vision board, from the perspective of your inner child, for example, different things, all kinds of stuff. So I highly recommend, if that's something that people are interested in, I highly recommend checking that out too, as a resource, or journaling even. Like all those things are very helpful.
So good.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad, guys, if you guys don't keep up with journaling. That's something I learned because I was so hard on myself. I'm like, oh, I don't keep up with my journal like I'm supposed to. But then who says you're supposed to? Just journal when you feel compelled to journal. That's perfectly fine.
Exactly. Journal when you feel like journaling. And it can be once a week, once a month, every 2 months, every 3-4 months. It doesn't matter. And also, I think perhaps it's just me, but sometimes I would feel compelled, like, oh my God, I have to write like 6 pages. No, it can be, if you want to write 3 lines and that's your entry for today, está bien. It's good. It's all good. Like, again, like I think the perfectionism, right? The pressure, the perfectionism, like all of that, I think, I feel it too.
The same way.
Very similar, very cut from the same cloth. Yeah, it's super similar. So for anyone out there who can resonate, it's okay to just use it when you feel called to write. I think it's very cathartic.
So I have my journal around always in the case I feel compelled to journal about something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think once it was like a few words.
Yeah,
just because I was like, I want to get this off my mind.
Yeah.
But I think we talked a lot about. We covered the 3 segments. I'm trying to think what else is good. I think something I would like to share to like the youth.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Because this is something I didn't do in high school. In high school, I was more rigid. I was more like less expressive emotionally. I was like, a goofball and like all that stuff, but I kept my personal life very, very, very close to me, and I rarely shared about things that were bothering me. And so I think there's value in being vulnerable with your closest friends. I think back then I saw it more of a way to like protect myself, where if I was to showcase that authentic real self, I'm gonna get exiled or shunned, or like people aren't gonna like me or whatever it may be. And so I just wanted to share like there's strength in doing that. And also too, if you find yourself being like very rigid, like it could be an indicator like there's something that you're shielding yourself from.
Totally. It's, oh man, this is such an interesting topic, because I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about the whole thing, because I really value privacy. Like I love privacy. I really value privacy. And at the same time, I share a lot, right? It's kind of interesting. If I kind of self-reflect, in general, one of the things that burns me up so much, and I think it's very cruel when people do this, is when you share a vulnerability or you share something very personal and they turn around and use it against you.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That was my fear. That was my fear. That is awful. Like that is so cruel, and it's the worst thing to do to somebody. Is like, oh well, I thought you said blah 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 blah. It's like that was not for you know what I mean. Like that was not to be like reshared or publicized or anything. Yeah, it. Oh man, it's such a fine line.
It's a fine line. The only reason why I mentioned that is because 2 like of my friends from high school who I still talk with and we're very close friends. These were like my closest friends from high school. It really stood out to me when they told me, and this was already when I'm in college, and I started sharing about like a lot of just like past life experiences that gave me a lot of distress. They told me like, wow, Ruby, like this is like the first time we actually know you, and like that really left me wide-eyed, because I was just like, wow, like in high school I thought I was doing a good job in like shielding myself from so much pain, but like
it's I feel like that time period of like middle school and high school and even into college, it's very challenging because unfortunately kids are really mean. Like
Yeah,
kids can be so cruel, so mean. They'll use something very personal against you,
yeah,
like, oh yeah, that's why, like that happened to you, or see, like that's why, she dished you, whatever dumb
yeah,
dumb crazy things kids say to each other, right? But yeah, I get it. Like I totally get
yeah,
it that there's a reason why people put up a wall, why they wear a mask. That's why we have these
yeah,
categories of like, oh, the jock, the cheerleader, the smart kid, the nerdy girl, the whatever, the football player. We put on these masks as a form of protection.
yeah,
It does make sense in a, like, I'm trying to protect myself kind of way, but it's true. What ends up happening is that, like, you also don't get to experience that love, right? You also don't get to experience
yeah.
that depth of friendship and that bond and that love that it only kind of happens in the messiness, right? It only kind of happens in, like, in the tears and the
Yeah.
challenges. It's true, man. Like, it's
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think I'd want to reframe my previous statement then. I think if you're finding yourself in a place where, especially in high school, because I think it happens a lot in high school, where
Yeah.
we do put like barriers in place and things like
Totally.
that. I think don't be so afraid to um be expressive with your family, because I think
Oh,
that's where that
yeah.
came from me, because
Yeah.
I would hide myself from everybody, like
Oh,
including my siblings, my mom, like
that's
everybody.
hard. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so and so then it feels like even more lonely, so
Yeah.
then you get
Yeah.
to a place where you feel like a very heavy weight on your heart,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So I think looking back now, I mean, I don't regret it, but I think looking back now, I could have done a lot of healing with my family early on if I
Hmm.
would have, opened up a bit more.
It's a process, like, yeah. I feel like it's a process, and it's okay. Like, it's okay to kind of
Yeah.
go through those experiences, as far as, like, you know, we learn, you know what I mean? Like, we learn, we develop, we go through these
Mhm.
things. And that's okay. But it's true, like having someone to talk to, right? Having
Yeah,
someone to
just
talk
someone.
to, people
Someone.
that really, like, know you well. It's, yeah, like, it's important. Human
Yeah.
beings, we do alas, we do need relationships. Like, like, what is that saying? No man is an island. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's like,
We're social creatures and all this, because I agree we are social
we
creatures.
are.
Like,
I
I
was
mean,
joking with
podcasting, like, that's a good example of, like, we like sharing, like,
yeah.
information and, like, our experiences a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I was joking with some friends. This was like an Instagram, like, on the DMs, right? And we were talking about Aries, right? I'm in Aries. And so I was
Yeah.
like, man, if I, like, blurted out everything that I thought, or if I really, like, went hard and, like, said what I wanted to say, I said I would burn it all down. I'd have no one. I said I would lose everybody. Everyone would be like, oh no, she's too much. Because it's true, because I think that is, like, part of the I think that's part of the process, is to learn. I'm not saying to, like, stay silent or to keep things in, but really, like, you also have to learn how to treat other people, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's part of the being kind, being loving. Like, that's also something that we have to practice, and that we have to learn how to
Mhm.
do better and better and better, right? Ideally. And so, yeah, like, blurting out the first thing on my mind is not maybe not the best thing to do. Oh my
I
gosh.
used to do that, and then, and then with time, because there was a girl who ended up crying because of something I said,
Oh
and I
no.
felt so bad. Like,
You
honestly,
made me
like, I felt so guilty.
cry.
If it was so awful,
Oh,
and like, I apologized to her. I gave her a
oh.
formal apology. I was like, hey, like, I didn't mean for
Yeah,
for that to hurt you. But you learn from those experiences,
we
though.
do.
So
We really do.
now
It's so true.
it's like, to hold back, like, your initial
Yeah,
thoughts. Like,
it's
not
true.
every first thought has to be said.
Super random question. When's your birthday, Ruby? I'm curious.
I'm
Are
Pisces.
you
I'm March
Pisces?
17th.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
water.
Nice.
But yeah, and I think another good piece of I don't want to say advice, but just something that I think the youth can take with them is, like, the future isn't defined. Like, it's okay
Yeah.
to, like, change your mind. Like,
Yeah.
those are things that I'm learning now, where it's
Totally.
like, you know, not, I have a vision of what I'm gonna do, like, post graduation, but it might not be like that, and that's
Mm-hmm.
totally fine. So I think also giving yourself the flexibility to like, try things and like see if that works, or if you like, certain careers and things like that, like
Mhm.
give yourself that option so that you don't feel so like, bound to
Yeah.
one thing.
Absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. It's true. Like, be open. That has been a huge
Mhm.
lesson for me too. Is like, be open for the adventure, because yeah, it's true. Like, the things that have happened, truly, like the things that have happened, like especially the last 5 years, I would say, a lot of unexpected changes, a lot of unexpected things. But it's like, well, you know, enjoy the ride, right? It's like, it's like buckle up and enjoy the ride. Oh my goodness, Ruby, this was great. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
being
that's
here.
good.
This was super fun, folks. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Oh, we covered a lot of topics, Ruby. Oh my gosh,
We did,
this
we
is great.
did.
Fantastic. So again, Ruby is online on social media. The podcast that she and Cynthia have is called the Academic Comadres. You can find them on Instagram. I'll be sure to tag them. This is the Gold Hoops and God podcast. You can find my podcast everywhere you listen to your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and all the rest. The video of these interviews are available on YouTube. I post the YouTube videos at 1:11 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday, so you can watch the interviews online as well. Thanks so much. Thank you, Ruby.